Afternoon, everyone. My name is Mauricio Vera. I'm the Assistant National Director of the Veteran Institute for Procurement. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, which we're going to talk about quality assurance, the eyes and ears of the organization. Obviously, a very important topic. Today's webinar is brought to you by the Veteran Institute for Procurement in partnership with the SBA and the Veterans Business Outreach Centers, or VBOCs. This webinar was developed to help veteran-owned businesses accelerate growth in the federal marketplace. As many of you know, VIP offers 5 different curriculums to give veteran-owned small businesses the tools they need to win government contracts. Participants receive hands-on, market-based instruction that helps establish best business practices for federal government contracting. And of course, most importantly, the program is offered at no cost. We are currently accepting applications for all 5 VIP training programs. For more information, please visit our website at www.nationalvip.org. And now I am thrilled to introduce to you our distinguished speaker for this afternoon, and that's Ms. Sharon Graves. Let me tell you a little bit about Sharon. She's the president of KMS Enterprises, Inc., a management consulting firm in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and she's a 2011 VIP Grow graduate. She has more than 30 years of experience in various technical and management positions and has worked with several government agencies and private sector companies to design and implement quality programs and management systems. Ms. Graves began her career as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force after graduating from the University of Alabama with a degree in electrical engineering. She worked as a program engineering in different program offices and attained the rank of captain. After completing 4 years of service, she went to work in private industry. Sherilyn is going to save some time at the end of the webinar for Q&A. Also, the slides and video recording from today's webinar will be emailed to you. And now it gives me great pleasure to turn it over to Sherilyn. Sherilyn, welcome to VIP, and thank you for your service, and it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Mauricio. And good afternoon, good morning. I don't know what time it is at your location, but I hope you're having a great day. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon to talk about quality assurance, a discipline that's been around for a long time, very important. And let me just go ahead and get to the next slide. Mauricio has already told you about Sharon Graves, what I do. I'm a licensed partner also. KMS is a licensed partner with the Software Engineering Institute, CMMI Institute, ISACA, to deliver introductory CMMI courses as well as provide appraisal services. We've done that since 2006, and especially focusing on development and services, 2 areas where quality is very important. I'm also a certified instructor and lead appraiser in CMMI as well. So let's talk about quality assurance. Here's the agenda that we have for this afternoon. Overview of quality assurance. We want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what we're talking about when we say quality assurance, because that term has been used in a number of ways. One way is testing, and we're not talking about testing this afternoon. We're talking about the broader discipline of quality assurance. So a few definitions there. We want to talk about evaluations and audits, and then the planning, reporting aspects of quality assurance, as well as the types of records you might be expected to keep. A couple of related topics, and then we'll have time for questions and close out. So let's look at some definitions. Talk about the purpose of quality assurance and answer the question, why is quality assurance important? So quality assurance is defined as a planned and systematic means for assuring management and staff that the defined, I call them organizational directives, the standards, policies, processes, practices, procedures, and methods are being followed and they're being applied. When it comes to audits and evaluations, we're talking about the review of activities and work products. And this review is conducted to determine the extent to which people in the organization are adhering to those directives that I mentioned earlier. A noncompliance issue is a problem that you might identify during an evaluation and audit. And it points out a situation where there's a lack of adherence to those directives that have been established by the organization. And the last definition is a process. What is a process? It's a set of interrelated activities that transform inputs into outputs to achieve a given purpose. So just keep those definitions in mind as we go through the session today. The purpose of quality assurance: to provide management and staff with objective insight into activities associated with work products. So key things to remember here: it's not just for management, it's for management as well as organizational staff. And when it comes to quality assurance, we're looking at both activities or processes as well as work products. Objectivity, very important, and it's achieved by setting up criteria that you use in doing evaluations and audits. And this criteria minimizes subjectivity and bias on the part of the evaluator or auditor. And independence is also something very important that we'll talk about a little bit later. So that's the purpose. And why is quality assurance important? Well, it reduces the likelihood that management will be surprised by the outcome. When we get to the end of the work that we're doing, we want to know what the outcome is going to be. We want to have assurance of what that outcome is going to be. So a good quality assurance program helps reduce the likelihood that anybody, not just management, but anybody will be surprised by the outcome. It increases the likelihood of finding existing problems early in the work so that you can correct any problems at a time when it's less costly, because the longer a problem goes along, the more expensive it can be to correct that problem. It ensures the delivery of high quality products and services to the customer. Customer satisfaction is everything. It's everything when you're delivering products and services. And last thing, it identifies candidate areas for process improvement. There may be activities that are not as efficient or as effective that are being performed within the organization. Quality assurance can identify situations like that. Okay, we have our first poll question. And I believe, Aaron, you're going to display the poll question. Okay, if everyone would answer this: what models, standards, methodologies, or frameworks have you used, either currently or in the past? Okay, great. So it looks like the majority of people are familiar with ISO. PMBOK, of course, yes, is another very popular framework that lots of people have used. So we have ITIL as well. Fewer people with CMMI and Agile seems to be popular as well. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Close that out. Okay, let's talk about quality assurance evaluations and audits. So we want to answer 4 questions. What will be evaluated and audited? When will these evaluations and audits be conducted? Who participates in them? And how will they be conducted? So first of all, what will be evaluated? When we talk about quality assurance evaluations and audits, we want to look at all the processes that are being performed within the organization, very important. And then selected work products. Many times, an organization, as you're doing your work, you're producing many work products, and to evaluate all of them would just be too much. So what work products are truly important in terms of making sure that you deliver a quality product or service, which work products are important to evaluate. Certainly, you might want to look at customer deliverables and evaluate those, conduct evaluations or audits on those. The procedures that are being followed in the organization as well. It might be very important to evaluate those. So establish the criteria and select work products that are important and provide the most value in terms of evaluating the quality of the organization. So that's what will be evaluated. When do you perform evaluations and audits? All performed processes should be evaluated periodically, and you decide how often periodically is. It can be weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. The important thing here is that your evaluations and audits should be planned. Your designated work products that are evaluated really depends on when those work products are ready for evaluation, when they're at a point where they're complete enough so that conducting an evaluation or audit is profitable. So it might be annually. In the case of a procedure or a process, maybe you evaluate it auditly, annually, quarterly maybe. Certainly before you deliver to the customer is always a good time to evaluate a work product that you're looking at in the organization. Who participates in these evaluations and audits? The quality assurance group is the main player here. And when I say group, if it's a small organization, a group may be one person. You know, it doesn't have to be 4, 5, 10 people. It can be 1 or 2 people conducting these audits. This group, their main responsibility is to coordinate and implement QA activities for the organization. They develop and maintain the plan and the schedule. They evaluate both activities and work products against those directives that I talked about earlier. And they verify adherence. They analyze the results of the QA activities and looking for trends. Are there any trends in terms of persistent problems or issues that are occurring associated with activities and work products? They report the results of QA activities to management and staff members. Very important, keeping people informed about what those outcomes are. And they record non-compliance issues that are identified during those audits and evaluations, and most importantly, track them to closure. So the QA group, very important role. Senior and project management ensures that the QA group has the resources and support that are needed. They review the results so that they understand the degree of adherence to those directives, and they understand any trends, as I said earlier, any trends in process performance. And then lastly, take corrective action. If there are any problems and non-compliance issues that are uncovered during the evaluations and audits, then senior and project management, they take the initiative to make sure that those are addressed in a timely fashion. And that's important. The third role is the project team or work group, and they support the evaluations and audits by providing access to the work product and keeping the quality assurance group informed on exactly what the team is doing. They work with the quality group to resolve any non-compliance issues that are uncovered. So bottom line is quality is really everyone's job, not just the QA group, not just senior or project management, not just the project team, but everybody working together as a team. Okay, we have our second poll question. What's your primary role within your organization? Please select one. Okay, great. Looks like the majority are senior managers. Okay. We also have some members of the quality assurance group. Great. And members of the project and work group, and then other as well. Okay, great. Thank you. So how will quality assurance audits and evaluations be conducted? So we talked about the what, we talked about the who, we talked about the when. How will these evaluations and audits be conducted? A work product evaluation or audit be conducted really at any time that the product is at a point where it's complete enough to do a good evaluation and audit. It can be done as a standalone activity. If it's a document at some point, you might want to say, okay, let's take time and look at it and make sure that it's correct, that satisfies any requirements that we have. It can be done concurrently with other project activities like a code review or at a project milestone. If you have something like a requirements review or a design review or a test review, at that point, you might want to evaluate or audit work products associated with that milestone. When it comes to a process or an activity evaluation and audit, you may pick a point in time, again, periodically, where you observe staff members performing the process. Are they performing it the way that it's been defined, the way it's been established in the organization? Maybe you want to interview staff members to gain an understanding of how they do their work. If you're using some type of tools to do the work, to perform a process, maybe a tool, observing a tool demonstration would help. Lessons learned activities. Lessons learned activities can be conducted at any time as you go along performing the work of the organization. And they are great times to do a process evaluation or audit. Okay, let's talk about planning, reporting, and records. A quality assurance plan, very important. All the activities that we've talked about so far should be planned. And when it comes to producing a QA plan, here are some topics that you might want to discuss. First of all, describe the organization that's subject to QA activities. Having an organization chart is always good. What are the quality assurance objectives? What are the resources that are needed, both human and non-human resources? What are the roles and responsibilities of people in the organization that will be involved in the QA activities? And then what are the QA activities? They should be described, and how are results recorded, analyzed, and reported. And then what processes will be evaluated, what work products will be evaluated, what's the schedule for each one of those things. Very important information. It should be reviewed and approved by senior and project management and shared with the entire organization. The quality group, the quality assurance group, shouldn't produce the plan and then keep it to themselves. Very important, because it is everyone's responsibility. Very important to share the plan with the entire organization so that everyone knows what to expect. And it's always good to have a quality assurance checklist. Going back to what I said earlier about minimizing subjectivity and bias, that's what the checklist helps you to do. The checklist, if you have, in order for it to be a really good, effective checklist, it should be based on those organizational directives that form the basis for your evaluations and audits. This checklist establishes the boundaries of the evaluation and audit, lets everyone know what's included in the audit and what's excluded. Very important. It ensures that the evaluation and audit is objective. It's not, the outcome is not dependent on the relationships of the people involved. And the checklist should cover everything that's being audited, processes as well as work products. Whenever the directives change, of course, the checklist should be updated, and it should be simple, something simple, easy to follow. A level of granularity that's useful and help you to identify non-compliance issues. So having a checklist where you have questions that are concise, singular, unambiguous, and you can answer yes, no, or not applicable, that's a very effective checklist. And here's an example. This is an example of a requirement specification checklist. And if you read through the questions, very simple, very simple. The bottom of this checklist identifies the template that forms the basis for this checklist. A couple of the questions: does the document have a cover page with required information? Has the document's revision history been recorded? Has the document been approved as specified in the project plan? Those are questions, very simple. Answer yes, no, or not applicable. So you should have this type of checklist for both process audits as well as work product audits. And then once an evaluation or audit is completed, there should be some type of report to record the pertinent information about that evaluation and audit. Things like what project or work group was subject to the evaluation or audit, what work product was evaluated or audited, who participated in it, when was it conducted, what non-compliance issues were discovered, and what are some recommended resolutions of the non-compliance issues, along with due dates, and very important, who is it assigned to resolve. And this includes also recommended process improvements. Here's an example of a report that contains the things that I just mentioned. And then also very important to maintain some type of record or composite record or database of your non-compliance issues. Something that's easy to monitor, use to track those NCIs and update on a regular basis. Here's one, very simple. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be some type of automated tool. If you have that, it's up to you what's best for your organization to use. So, but important to record this type of information, a description of the noncompliance issue, who conducted the evaluation or audit, what was the project or work group that was involved, what work, product, or process was audited, when was it open, the date it was open, the date that it's due, who is it assigned to resolve, what's the current status of it, and that's something that should be updated on a regular basis. When was it closed, and what was the resolution? There may be other things that you want to record as well, and that's fine. This is just a basic, minimal information that should be recorded as you go through your evaluations and your audits. And this information must be communicated. A report is typically sent to project managers, to anybody that participated in evaluation and audit, and especially people that they're assigned to resolve the NCIs. Things to keep in mind, these findings, these non-compliance items should not be used to criminalize people. When you're doing an evaluation and audit, the focus is not on the person that's responsible for preparing the work product or performing the process. It's on the process or the work product itself. So please don't use the findings to criminalize people. And the findings should be addressed at the lowest level of the organization first, and only escalated or elevated to management if the NCIs cannot be resolved. An abbreviated report typically gets sent to senior management periodically, especially those things that may be taking a long time to resolve. You might need to get senior management involved. So periodically, senior management should also be getting some type of report. And noncompliance issues must be resolved or closed in a timely manner. So how do you resolve a noncompliance issue? Well, you can fix it. If there's something, if a process is established and someone's not following the process, so a fix would be to start following the process. If you have a work product audit and something, as we talked about earlier, you have a template that the organization is supposed to use, and they're not using the template. So a way to fix that is to start using the template. So fix the noncompliance. You may need to change the processes, policies, or procedures that are being followed. Maybe they're not the correct directives, which is okay. So the QA evaluation and audit, if that's uncovered, then a way to fix that is to change the directive. There may be a situation also where you obtain a waiver to cover the noncompliance. Now, waivers should be used sparingly, and when a waiver is granted, it should be approved by management, and the justification for a waiver should also be documented as well. And then all this information that's put together as part of the reporting, the database, and non-compliance issue database, all of it should be evaluated again to identify any trends. Are there any, are there any issues or problems that recur over and over and over again? And if yes, then what do we do to address it? So looking at non-compliance issue information is a great way to identify any trends or potential areas of improvement. Okay, our next poll question is, my current experience with quality assurance can best be described by this statement, and then please pick the statement that best describes your experience. Okay, it's great to see the majority of people, it looks like, work in an organization today with a great QA program. Okay, so we have a few people. This is the first time you've heard anyone talk about QA. Great. So this is good information. And then, like I said, it's great to see. It looks like most people attending are in organizations where you have an active program and you're involved in the program. Great. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about a few related topics. The quality assurance professional, who should think about, if you enjoy quality assurance, who is the ideal person, if you will, to be a quality assurance professional? The quality assurance professional ultimately is accountable to the senior manager in the organization. Quality assurance, if done correctly, they become the eyes and ears of the organization. If something is not being done well in the organization, quality assurance is the first ones to know about it. But very important, again, to maintain objectivity and focus, independence. By that, what we mean is someone who's responsible for quality assurance shouldn't evaluate his or her own work, and they shouldn't report to the manager, report directly to the manager of the work group or project that's subject to an evaluation and audit. Why? Because there's a tendency to have a conflict of interest there sometimes. So very important, maintaining objectivity and focus as well as independence. And if a quality assurance professional really performs this discipline the way it's meant to be performed, they can find themselves many times wearing multiple hats. And by that I mean, they are, of course, evaluating processes and work products, but they also may become a mentor to people on the project team, people within the organization who are learning the process or performing the process. A change agent, they may become a change agent or an advocate for the process. And many times, since they understand what's being done on the project, maybe why it's been done a certain way, they become an intermediary between upper management and people on the project team. So many hats. And then to be effective, a quality assurance professional should be knowledgeable in those organizational directives. They should pay attention, close attention to detail, follow up on audit results, making sure that those results are understood, that they're communicated, that they're resolved, those non-compliance issues are resolved. QA professional also must communicate well with all levels of the organization, with everybody in the organization. Patience is key, because a lot of times non-compliance issues are sometimes they're not easily resolved, they're not quickly resolved. So important to be patient, consistent, and probably most important of all, to have a can-do attitude. When things are not going well in an organization, sometimes it's up to the quality of people to say, let's keep going, we can work through this and we can get it done. We can resolve those non-compliance issues and get things done. So that's the QA professional. I noticed earlier that some of you are working in an agile environment. So yes, you can employ quality assurance in an agile environment. There are several opportunities. For example, backlog grooming, and you're looking at user stories, an opportunity to bring in quality assurance activities, code reviews, feedback on what's built during a sprint review. I mentioned lessons learned earlier and identifying process improvements during the retrospective ceremony. So yes, agile can be challenging at times because you're cycling through sprints on a quick basis, 2 to 4 weeks sometimes, but still there's plenty of opportunity to bring in quality assurance and include that in that type of environment. Some models and standards where there's a big focus on quality assurance. The first one, capability maturity model, that's the one that I deal with most often. There's a practice area called the process quality assurance practice area that addresses quality assurance. It includes practices that are applicable in both in a product development environment, services environment, safety and security as well. And many of you are familiar with ISO standards, quality management standard. I'm sure if you work with ISO, you're familiar with quality management systems as well. And a number of standards, ISO standards there that address quality. So what would we like for you to remember? Projects and work groups are successful when there is an ongoing effective quality assurance program in place. It's every project, I think it's every project and every work group's goal to be on time, within the budget, and few defects. Having a good quality assurance program in place helps you achieve those goals. And the quality assurance program is effective if objective process and work product evaluations and audits are planned and performed. Planned, first of all, and then performed. Proper and adequate quality assurance records are maintained and non-compliance issues are tracked to closure. The results of the audits and evaluations, they're analyzed, communicated, and used to identify potential process improvements. So very important. And then, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, quality assurance personnel do become the eyes and the ears of the organization. Many times they're the first ones to identify issues or problems that might be present in both processes and work products. They have to interact with all levels of the organization, and they may be asked to wear several different hats because of the role that they play. And now we're at the point, if we have questions.
Well, Sherilyn, let me first of all thank you for a very informative, outstanding presentation. I'm going to ask those on the call, if you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A box that can be found in the toolbar. So don't put them in the chat box, put them in the Q&A box, and I will read them to Sherilyn. So I see some comments about a great presentation. Thank you for that. But if anyone has questions, you know, while folks start thinking about that, let me ask something, Sherilyn. You know, I know most everyone here works with the federal government. So are doing government contracts as a prime contract, hopefully as prime contractors. But assuming you're a prime contractor with the government, you are, I guess, two questions. One is, sometimes quality assurance is part of the evaluation of the contract, whether, how the contractor is performing. Maybe it's part of the CPARs that they would get. Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe sort of the connection between, an quality assurance program and then the performance of the contract as measured by the government under the CPARs.
Okay. Many times, yeah, if you're a government contractor, many times one of your deliverables is going to be a quality assurance plan. And in that plan, you're asked to set up quality goals. And you're expected, as you go along doing the work, to monitor those goals and then report on whether or not you're achieving those goals. And then that feeds, that's information that your customer will get and evaluate as well on their own to determine your CPAR score. So that is very important. If you do have a deliverable that's a quality assurance plan as part of your contract, yes, you should pay very close attention to that, because that could feed into your CPAR score as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. We do have a question here saying from Robert Hereford saying, is looking for ISO certification for quality. What do we need to do to provide to get a price estimate?
Oh, well, just send an email and, telling exactly what type of certification you want. ISO 9001, that's certainly, the certification that's available. So send an email saying what you're looking for, and we can certainly help you with that.
Okay, thank you. I think they're looking for 9001 is the one they're looking for. So
Okay.
Another what your email address is?
Sharon.Graves@KMSCORP.com. KMSCORP.com. As a matter of fact.
There we go.
Yeah, that's my information there.
There we go. It's in the last slide, so everyone can see it.
Yeah.
I see we have a comment. The presentation motivated me to go through my drawers and file documents away. Much appreciated. Yes, so good. You've had a good influence on the attendees.
That's always good to know. If talking about quality can motivate people to think about activities that you're doing and how to make those products better, that's great, because again, it translates into customer satisfaction.
Exactly, of course. Other questions for Sharon? I know this is not a shy group. Okay, here we have one from Sylvester Bush. What is the process for the ISO 9000? Is there a standard process and cost?
A standard process and cost? Well, let me start with the cost part of it first. The cost is really dependent on the organization, a lot of times, that's performing the audit. The process for getting certified, well, first of all, it always starts with training, getting smart on what's required by the ISO standard. And then once you get trained, you need, I call them a process lead, a quality manager. You need to assign a quality manager, somebody that's going to take the lead in working with the organization and helping them to prepare. And then you have to go through and make sure for every clause that's in the standard that you're satisfying it. You have to identify what part of your organization is going to be subject to certification, because it's typically not an entire company. It's typically a part of your company, some group or some division or work group that's in your company that's getting the certification. And then you should select your auditor who's going to come in and actually conduct the certification and do conduct the certification, give you certification. So there are a number of steps, again, beginning with training, assigning a manager, deciding what part of the organization is going to be certified, and then making sure that you have work products, processes in place, setting up your quality management system as well, and then ultimately getting to the point where you bring somebody in to do the certification. I hope that answers the question.
I think it did. If there's a further follow-up, he's commenting that we are resellers, and there was a GSA contract that had a requirement that they be ISO 9000.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Any other questions for Sherilyn? Going once, going twice. I think that is all that she wrote. I don't see other questions. So I want to go ahead and thank you, Sherilyn, for again, an outstanding, informative presentation and great Q&A session. Really want to thank you for your time. I want to also thank the participants for attending this VIP VBOC webinar, and to the SBA for making this webinar possible. I would just ask everyone if you can just take a moment to complete a very short survey that is going to appear on your screen immediately following the program. Of course, as you know, your feedback is always important to us. We always try to improve and have good quality programs. Very appropriate for this, but anyway, we want to thank Sherilyn again. Thanks to all the participants. We wish you all continued success and hope to see you at our next VIP VBOC webinar. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you, Sherilyn.
Thank you. Thank you.